and welcome to Meticulous Moments. My name is Juanita Kapp. You can reach me at meticulousmacarons@gmail.com or find me on LinkedIn. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the globe, I've had the wonderful privilege to meet a wide array of fantastic individuals. These individuals have truly touched my life in so many positive ways. Amongst this group of people, there are authors, public speakers, life coaches, poets, leaders, and visionaries. They are the unsung heroes of our time. Therefore, I decided to start the Meticulous Moments movement out of a sense of my gratitude. It is my way of giving back to the community. Let us share and reshare their stories in an effort to build a better society. Today we are joined by the fabulous and amazing, inspiring Warren Ho. Warren started his martial arts career when he was 9 years old. His love for martial arts led him to experiment in a variety of martial arts that include Amok, CQC, which is close quarter combatives, Eskrima, Hapkido, Xingyi, Jeet Kune, Karate, KAPAP, Kendo, Krav Maga, Kung Fu, Kung-Do, Kyosho, Muay Thai, Qigong, Sistema, Taekwondo, Tai Chi, Tuk Kong Mul So, and Wing Chun. With some of these martial arts, he achieved various levels in them through rigorous and consistent training. He currently holds the following grades in the following martial arts: Kendo, 5th Dan; Iaido, ZNKR, 1st Dan; Jodo, ZNKR, 1st Dan; Taekwondo, World Taekwondo Federation, 4th Dan; Hapkido, World Hapkido Federation, 2nd Dan; Kyosho, Kyosho International Level 2 Certified Pressure Point Instructor; Krav Maga, Krav Maga South Africa Level 1 Instructor. Warren is also a martial arts coach who holds a SAQA NQF Level 4 coaching certification that he completed under the auspices of the Martial Arts of South Africa. Warren has represented South Africa at the European Kendo Championships in Helsinki, Finland in 2008, in Debrecen, Hungary 2010, and Macedonia in 2016. He has also represented South Africa at the World Kendo Championships in Sao Paulo, Brazil 2009, Novara, Italy in 2012, and Tokyo, Japan 2015. Warren has earned his South African national sports colours in Kendo 6 times for representing South Africa at each of these events. Warren is also the owner and head Kendo sensei or instructor at his dojo, Ryu Kendo Chi, RKC Dojo. That consists of 2 training venues, one in Paulshof, which is in the northern suburbs of Johannesburg, and the observatory, which is in the eastern suburbs of Johannesburg. The RKC Dojo offers classes in Kendo, Iaido, and Jodo, traditional Japanese martial arts that are weapons-based. In order to supplement these martial arts training with more practical and combative techniques, Warren also focused on weapons training, such as knives and firearms, ensuring that he would not only be able to handle each weapon effectively, but to also ensure how one would defend themselves against attacks with such weapons. Besides the years of hard martial arts and combative training, Warren also studied various forms and techniques for health and healing. This included studying the practice of Bu Guang Ging, a form of Qigong, Kyosho healing, utilizing pressure points to assist the body in healing, acupuncture, the use of traditional Chinese medicine theory and fine needles to affect the body and its ailments, and transformational kinesiology, the usage of muscle testing to diagnose and heal both physical and emotional ailments. As part of his personal health and fitness journey, Warren had embarked on a fitness and nutrition lifestyle change that involved a change to a more healthier diet, regular exercising, and more positive and productive mindsetting. Through this, he developed the concept of lifestyle of a warrior, which takes a student on a journey of unboxing their inner warrior through lifestyle changes that are sustainable. Using his extensive knowledge and experience of the martial arts, combative healing, and healing modalities, Warren has condensed his wealth of knowledge into various martial arts, self-defense, and lifestyle programs and services that he markets under his brand warrenho.net. Warren's thirst for constant personal development has led him to explore, engage, and ultimately elevate his whole being so that he can serve his fellow man to help them unlock their potential to live a fully engaged life. It is his vision to leave a legacy that will help make the world a safer, healthier, and happier place for future generations to come. Welcome, Warren. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Meticulous Moments. Today we have the pleasure of having time with the wonderful Warren Ho. Warren, thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you, Juanita. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here with you.
Thank you. Warren, would you like to tell us more about yourself, please?
Sure. Where do I start? I suppose I'm a South African-born Chinese. I was born quite a while ago, but I won't give you my age away. But yes, people always ask, am I really South African? I always tell them I'm the yellow part of the Rainbow Nation. So yes, I am definitely 100% South African with a Chinese ethnicity background. But stereotypical, I do martial arts. I run a full-time martial arts dojo that teaches Japanese martial arts. Martial arts has always been my passion, and it has become a way of my life. It took me a while to get here, but sort of the martial arts path is the one that I've chosen.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. It's wonderful to hear that you are proudly South African. I love that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Warren, you recently went on a trip to Europe. I followed your posts on Facebook. It was amazing to see your journey. Please share your experience with us, because I know it involved lost luggage and an insanely huge ice cream.
Absolutely. So I recently went to both Croatia and Bulgaria. Croatia was a gashku, or a training camp away from your normal training hall for kendo, with one of my friends that I'd met in 2014 at a camp in Japan called Kitamoto, which is a foreign leaders camp for kendo. And he is the sort of the Croatian Kendo Federation president, and I was very politely invited to come to his event in Croatia. That was 3 days of intense training with some really high-level European senseis, as well as one, I'm going to say Japanese/New Zealander sensei. He's a New Zealander, but he's lived longer in Japan than he has been in New Zealand. Alex Bennett. He's a Caucasian guy, but he probably speaks better Japanese than most Japanese do in Japan themselves. So, someone who I highly respect and has immersed himself in Japanese culture. But regardless, the seminar with all the other wonderful senseis was an amazing event. I learned a lot, met a lot of good friends, reunited with good friends, made new friends, got to see a beautiful country like Croatia. And after 2.5 years of no traveling, it was such a relief, going back to some kind of normalcy, where you can travel again, not wear masks, and just feel a little bit more freedom as we were used to.
Yes, I'm sure it was amazing, to travel again and just to feel free and be able to move around effortlessly. I'm very happy that you went. Wow.
Now, the second part of the journey was to another training camp, which was in Bulgaria. It was the Budo Black Sea Gashku, which was for my two other martial arts that I practice, Judo and Iaido. That was a 6-day training event with Renee Amerfit Sensei from the Netherlands. and
Wow.
he's the only non-Japanese Hachidan, eighth Dan, in Jodo. So he's the only non-Japanese person to have it. So he was quite an honor to have
Fantastic.
trained with him. But that one was where my luggage got lost. It got lost at the beginning of my trip. And it had all my equipment, so my kinder gear from the previous Gashku, as well as my sword, my yaita, my blunted sword that I needed for the camp, for the second camp, my Jo, which is just a stick, but a very special stick, as well as my uniforms and clothing and gifts and souvenirs and all the stuff that I bought from Croatia to give away for presents, including a very sentimental, a signed copy of one of Professor Alex Bennett's books. I got it signed in Croatia for a friend. It got delayed or lost somewhere. I'm still waiting for the luggage. So it was quite disheartening not having any of my stuff. But the people that were there were able to lend me uniform and borrowed me a sword and borrowed me weapons to use. So I could still learn while I waited for my luggage as such. I'm still waiting for the luggage.
I'm very sorry to hear that. I guess it would have been, very difficult, because I know that as martial arts practitioners, we love our own gi and our own weapons, and, we're very close to the gear. So that was quite a challenge. But I commend you on still making the trip valuable and, enjoying it. I saw photos where you were on the beach and, you just went on. And to me, that was a display of fantastic leadership. To not be disheartened by that hiccup or that speed bump, but just to go for it. That was amazing.
Absolutely. And I think the term that I used during the time that I was there is it's called Musha Shugo, which is a warrior's journey. And the whole point of this back in the old days was that a samurai or a martial arts practitioner would leave the comfort of his dojo, of his family, and travel the lands and go and test his skills out and go learn stuff. He would actually go and challenge people, and if he won the challenge, he would move on. But if he had lost the challenge, he would stay and learn from that master, and ask them to take on his apprentice. So in a way, this was my Musha Shugo. I went there to train and to learn new things, and regardless of the circumstances, whether it's lost luggage, fatigue and tiredness, because it was so hot and humid there. I got a little bit of sick as well, because it was going from our cold South African weather to 30, 40 degrees and 100% humidity. And having the aircon on, I got sick immediately. But working through that, the tiredness and the sickness and lost luggage, just to continue and remember why I was there to be on this path, this warrior's journey. And I felt that I needed to continue training regardless.
Yeah, that's amazing, because it's actually symbolic in your life. And it actually proves that you are a true warrior. You didn't let anything influence you. You completed your goal and your task. So I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
What were the key lessons learned during your time spent with other martial arts leaders, senseis in Europe?
Yeah, I think one of the big lessons is that there is never enough time for training. There's always going to be more training. And I think I realized this, probably even before going to Europe, is that you can never train enough. If you ever say that you've had enough training or you think you've mastered it, you haven't. I think martial arts and any profession that you take seriously, there is no end to it. If you enjoy it, it's something you're pursuing for your life. There is no depth. There is no end to the depth of knowledge and wisdom out there. And the European senseis prove that. There is so much knowledge, so much experience. And the nice thing about it is everybody's so willing to share their knowledge and skills with you. But the thing is, what makes these senseis unique, and I think it's also for any person that puts himself in a leadership position, and there's a very cliched saying, when the student is ready, the master will appear. You have to be ready for it. It's pointless showing you 101 techniques when you can't even get technique number 1 right. So I think that was a big learning point for me, is that I'm still very much a beginner in the two of the martial arts, Iaido and Judo. You can only show me so much. This human vessel can only hold so much for now. I have to absorb and learn and practice it before I can learn more. but I've been given a lot of information for the next year where I can practice, and hopefully I get to travel again next year.
Fantastic. I'm sure you will get the chance to do so. And, as I was speaking, I was thinking about the martial arts that we do as well. Repetition, repetition, repetition.
That's right.
We practice a kata for a year. And Warren, a kata is about, minute to 2 minutes? So you train a whole year for that minute to 2 minutes. And it's amazing because every day you learn something new, although it's the same thing that you do over and over again. It's kind of like life. We do life every day, but we learn every day.
Absolutely. And I think, that's, I think it was I think it was Miyamoto Musashi or one of those guys that said, 1,000 hours of training, 10,000 hours to refine it. But in a battle, it will take a split second to be finished. So this is why we train, and we don't have obviously those severe conditions where it was life or death. But there is that sort of that mentality of polishing and refining your skill, not just for the sake of it, but for self-improvement and for personal development. So yes, I'm glad you can relate to that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and self-discovery. Because you learn something about yourself when you have to do something over and over again, and you have to keep your mind focused, and you have to keep your attitude and your heart in the right place. So that's why I also love martial arts. It's something that is just so shaping in one's character.
Wonderful. No, absolutely. And I think most people that take martial arts seriously, and it sounds like you do, eventually get to that conclusion. It becomes a part of their life, and you sort of work on the deeper meanings of the martial art. And I'm very much in the line of martial arts has always been about body, mind, and spirit. But you have to master the body first. Without mastering the body, you can't move on to the more complicated stuff like mastering your mind and eventually mastering your spirit or your emotions. And I think only serious practitioners can really delve deep into those last two elements of the martial arts. But it starts with the body, because unfortunately we're human. We all have this human carcass that we have to use. So learn to use it properly and then move on to the more advanced stuff. Absolutely.
I agree. And your body has that memory.
For sure.
Without even thinking about doing something in that moment, if you take it seriously, your body will react in the manner that it's called to react.
For sure. No, absolutely right.
So how long have you been practicing martial arts?
Wow, okay. So the embarrassing thing is, I wouldn't say embarrassing, but I started martial arts probably when I was about 8 years old.
Wow.
And I won't give away my age, but yeah, I'm close to half a decade so far. So not half a century. Wow, half a decade. Not that far, but it's been a while. But I'll be honest with you that even though I started at 8, I think I only did it for about a year or so. And then I had to stop. And I only really started again when I was at university, when I was about 18, about 10 years later. And from 18 onwards, I had a wonderful instructor, Scott Crowder, who taught me Taekwondo and martial arts in general. And because of his motivation, and he was such an inspirational instructor, it really made me sort of love the martial arts, or martial arts. So I would technically say 18 was when I started.
So that's a lot of experience. Those are many, many years that you've honed your skills. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think very much. I went a bit of a roundabout way, to where I got. I experimented with a lot of martial arts. And I think Taekwondo was definitely something I loved, and I dug deep into it, and I got to like the 4th dan level. But I also wanted to explore other martial arts like Hapkido and Wing Chun, and I did karate for a while, Tai Chi, Sistema, Krav Maga, Amok, Eskrima. And I tried it all just to get a sort of like a. Most people always give you their opinion of the martial art, but I wanted to experience it. And it was both a good and a bad thing. I had several of my instructors saying it's bad to sort of, just sort of dissipate my energy to so many areas, because I was training so much in so many different styles and getting confused, and the body didn't want to adapt to any single one. But at the same time, it was my exploratory phase where I really just wanted to learn as much as I could about all martial arts. At the end of the day, and Bruce Lee said it the best, we all have 2 arms, 2 legs. Punch is a punch, a kick is a kick. In different styles we'll interpret that differently. And I wanted to experience that. And then I came to the conclusion that, there are certain styles that I'm more suited for. My body type, my mannerism, what suits me. And that's sort of where I've fallen into now. Is Kendo has become my main martial art, which is purely a sword based with a bamboo sword, and then Iaido and Jodo. So those are sort of really good. I'm really enjoying learning more about those and delving deeper into those ones.
Fantastic. As you are illustrating what you've been through and all the styles that you've tried, I actually, in my opinion, think it is a fantastic journey that you went on, because you got a very well-rounded view of martial arts. And I know, our stances differ and our weapons differ, and there are little things that the techniques differ, but in the end of the day, the principles of martial arts stays the same. So I think that is very refreshing, and I think that what you've learned up to now is invaluable. There's not many people that do all those styles and go digging for the meaning of martial arts.
No, absolutely. I think, like I said, those are my formative years of martial arts, but it really did give me a good understanding of, I suppose, a wide variety. And I don't by all means advocate that I'm an expert at all these martial arts. Some of them I just dabbled, a couple of months, couple of years, went to a seminar or 2, but it really gave me a taste of what it was like. And I think, like you said, that those experiences were invaluable. And again, I met some wonderful people. I think along this journey as a martial artist, Europe especially, you meet wonderful people. I mean, there are more good people than I meet bad people. And those experiences are priceless. So, yes. I
agree. It's always wonderful to meet new people and make friendships and, to be able to relate to them. And to touch base. That's wonderful. Which weapon do you use mainly? You mentioned the sword?
Yes. So in my style of martial arts, Kendo, we use a bamboo sword called the shinai. It's made of 4 staves of bamboo. And the reason it's made of bamboo is because it's we spar full contact with it. So you want something that's going to give and don't kill your partner, because we want to keep that partner for the next round.
At least for the training, you want them alive.
Absolutely. And I think Kendo is what we consider a Gendai Budo, which is a modern martial art. It's been modernized from the samurai, from the battlefield. So it has become a very modernized martial art. It has a sporting element of it, but it still holds on to a lot of its tradition. And that's where we use a bokdo or a bokken, a wooden sword. And there we still practice kata, very much like in karate. That links us to the past of where it's come from, where it comes from, the battlefield, and it was used to maim and kill enemies. And Kendo is all that. Then there's the one which I consider using a steel sword or a metal sword called Iaido, which is Iaido, which is the art of just drawing and sheathing the sword. And there you use a metal sword, so there is no kata with a partner. There is no sparring, because eventually you do use a shinken, which is a sharpened sword, very sharp. As I knew, since my luggage was lost last week, I found out very quickly that if you use a shinken, you're going to be very careful. I have a shinken, and on my first lesson, I cut my own finger. I sliced off the part of my finger. Thankfully, it was only 3 millimeters deep, so didn't require any stitches. But it was such a awakening experience, is that when you're using a live blade, and one of my senseis said it, remember that a sword is made for one purpose, to cut. Either it's going to cut your enemy or it's going to cut you. So, when you start playing around in Kendo, you kind of forget that, because you're using a bamboo sword or a wooden sword, and you start playing around with it. But with the real sword, it will remind you very quickly that it was made for one purpose. And that brings me back to reality of this used to come from the battlegrounds. As your style of martial art, it was used for self-defense, it was used for war and battle. So don't forget that martial history that it has. And then the third one, which I do, which is Jodo, which is the art of the short staff or the short stick. It's a 128 centimeter staff. shorter than a bow that you'd be used to.
Yes. Yes.
But it's a very practical weapon to use against a katana or a sword. And that's why I do all three, because this is the ultimate weapon to use against the katana. And, it was actually used back in the day when samurais were sort of, during peaceful times. The warlords still needed to keep their samurai, but they used to always get into arguments. And they'd whip out their swords and kill each other. So they would get these enforcers with Joes, which would subdue the samurai but not kill them. So the Jodo was designed as a style to sort of as self-defense to sort of subdue and control but not kill, as a katana does. So it has a nice balance, and I must admit I'm fascinated by the Jo. It has so many applications, very practical. It's the only style that we have in my repertoire of Kendo, Iaido, and Jodo that I think can be used practically for self-defense. You can walk around with a stick in the street.
Yes.
No one will ask questions. You walk around with a sword, it gets a little bit dodgy. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was thinking of the bamboo swords that you use is it kendo?
Yes, that's right.
Kendo. So that is very useful for body conditioning. If you then get into a fight, then you are able to take that hit and still defend yourself.
Technically not. So in kendo, let me put it this way. In kendo, my youngest student in armor, in Bogu, full armor, we wear armor to protect ourselves, right? He is 7 years old. And my oldest practitioner member, my sensei, he is 78.
78, wow.
Yeah, and he still kicks my butt, right? But now the bamboo swords, the combination of bamboo swords and protective armor allows that age range where a 6-year-old or 7-year-old can compete with a 78-year-old and everything in between. And male and female. This is not strength dependent. You can have male and female competing with no problem. Because you have bamboo swords and armor, you can still go full contact sparring. Provided you hit the right areas, you're well protected. So again, it doesn't condition you in that way. You can break bones with a shinai. With the shinai in the right practitioner's hand, you can create enough power to snap bone. So I wouldn't recommend getting hits anywhere with the bamboo sword. Even though it gives, like I said, we have a concept called tenochi, and I liken tenochi to Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch. We can generate that kind of force with a small amount of space using a bamboo sword. So yeah, I wouldn't.
Very powerful.
It is very powerful, but again, it's not something practical. I wouldn't walk around with a shinai. I wouldn't walk around in full kendo bogu. It looks too intimidating. It's very romantic. People love watching us wear our bogu, and that it's very nice and we're very ritualistic. Putting it on, it's beautiful to watch. But you see us in the street. If you see someone in the street like that, I would probably run the other way.
Just run. At least when you use the bamboo swords in kendo, you have armor.
Yes,
so
that's
lucky
right.
for that. Yeah. In our style, we do a lot of body conditioning to be able to take the hits. If someone does kick you or hit you, I mean, you can be as good as the best person in the world in karate, but you will at some point get punched in the face. So if you're not used to taking those punches, then you have a problem. So we are also all about self-defense. We will rather run the other way than get into an altercation.
I think what you've also mentioned something very important there. I think if your style advocates that it's for self-defense training, then be the best self-defense style that there is. Kendo doesn't advocate self-defense at all in anything. It talks about development of self through the application of the sword. Nowhere in our sort of marketing or in the concept of kendo do we say it's about self-defense. It's all about developing ourselves, developing our body, mind, and spirit. And the most important thing that I think kendo and all the styles that we do in this organization, the Zen Kenren, the All Japan Kendo Federation, is that it's all about the betterment of humanity through the love of the sword. So we have that as our higher objectives, that through disciplined training, hard, vigorous training, we learn to discipline not only our body, our mind, and our emotions and spirit, But because of doing that, we help society become a better place. If there's more martial artists around, we'd like to think there'd be more peace and understanding around the world. So
Absolutely.
Like you said, though, as long as your art is very clear and you're clear as to why you're doing it, you're on the right path.
Absolutely. I always tell people when we do leadership training that, it starts with self.
Sure.
No change in society can transpire if you don't start with yourself. And what I love about our dojo, Tom's dojo here in Queenstown, our Kiyoshi is named Tom Hayes, is he always teaches us, to start with yourself. Sure. And he also teaches about the body, soul, and the spirit and how we should move. Right. When we do kata, we move at once. So your feet and your hands and everything must move at the same pace. And there's so many valuable lessons in leadership, I would believe, in martial arts. And I agree with him that I actually think that it should be a subject in schools. They should actually bring it into schools and make it one of the subjects to discipline the young ones, to get them into that right frame of mind of learning and developing.
Yeah, I think I agree with you for most of that. But, just my personal experience on the discipline part, I think discipline, I've really dug deep in terms of what discipline means. And I think during COVID times, it was a big revelation for me. Here's everybody thinking I'm this amazing martial artist with a lot of years of experience, and I'd be very self-disciplined and train myself. But during COVID, like everybody else, I just wanted to sit home, relax, eat a packet of chips, watch TV, watch Netflix, get lazy, And I think self-discipline is a very, very much, if you have it, great.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us who don't. And the discipline I found is that if I didn't, I needed my students, because I resorted to online training. I needed my students to give me the discipline to get up and train with them, to teach, because I had a responsibility to them.
Yeah.
That's how I created discipline. It wasn't, and I'll be very honest with you, it wasn't discipline from within myself. It was because I had a responsibility to my students to teach that made me disciplined. And I think, for kids, Shane, let them be kids for a bit, but discipline will come in different forms and different shapes. When I have youngsters that come to my class, my little 6-year-olds or 8-year-olds, and parents say they want them to learn discipline, I say, look, part of the discipline is also for the parents to bring them to training. Not the child that's going to get there. You need to bring them there. And once they're there, yes, they'll learn a bit of discipline, standing in line, listen to commands and everything. But the first step of discipline is just showing up.
Absolutely showing up.
Yep.
At our dojo, even if you don't feel well and you're not allowed to train today, maybe you've heard something, showing up is also important, because you also learn by seeing and hearing. You don't necessarily have to be on the floor or on the mat or in the cage.
Yes. And we'll show up if you don't have COVID, of course. That was one of our prerequisites during COVID
Very
times.
Important point.
We were very strict during COVID times. We were back in training, but if you have a sniffle, you have a cough, please don't show up. As much as we'd love to have you there,
we'll just care for you.
Cautious. And I think this is important. You mentioned something about, sort of looking at yourself first. I think if you look at our logo, and I think you asked me one of the questions about our logo.
Yes.
And our logo is quite special, and I have it here. Part of our logo has what we call a Mitsudomo, which is a street twirl thing here, right? 1, 2, 3. Now, most people are familiar with the yin and yang, black and white, good and evil, male and female, up and down. So yin and yang works great, and it brings balance to a lot of things. But the Mitsudomo takes one other thing into account. And if we use something, I'll use a basic analogy, right? If you look at the 3 swirls, right? Think of something like heaven and earth, which is the yin and yang would be the two that fit together. But there's a third component, which is yourself. How do you fit in this balance of heaven and earth through good and evil? And I think for me, the Mitsudomo, which is this symbol, represents more of my philosophy in terms of everything that you do, whether it's good or bad. What is the implications and what are the consequences that I'm putting the situation in? So is the person or the self that's also involved. And look, it works pretty much, we use the Mitsudomo to represent threes. The three
Yeah.
martial arts that we do in our dojo. We do kendo, iaido, and jodo. And a very
Yeah.
simple analogies. Kendo is all about competition, fighting against someone. Iaido is all about inner development, contemplation for the self. And jodo is all about cooperation with your partner. And the philosophy in our dojo is we have three founding principles of family, fun, and focus. We focus
Fantastic.
focus on good training, have a lot of fun while doing it, and we treat each other like family so that we have lifelong bonds. So there's power in these. I call it the power of three.
Yeah.
The Mitsudomo is a very big representation of that in our logo, our branding.
That's wonderful. I'm very happy to hear the familial aspect. And I was thinking, as you were bringing that together for me, that, what you said about COVID, I think we all were watching Netflix, right? I mean, I was watching Korean dramas because I had nothing to do all of a sudden, and I was knitting scarves. But we also had online training, and that kept me going. That kept me motivated through the COVID to still train. And as senseis, I realized that you have an accountability to your martial arts family. And
Absolutely.
I think that is amazing. You have that burden for our development and our well-being. So family really fits into that for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm, from my Chinese or my Asian background, the family plays a big role. So I've always, I always want to bring in that family aspect. Even my wife says sometimes I spend more time at the dojo with my dojo family than I do back home. And she's not too far off, I think sometimes
Awesome.
they still need to be balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the dojo does become our second home, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's important that, but there are also rules and regulations. I think one of the things I've realized, being a sensei, and I say that very, seriously, as much as I'm only a fifth dan in kendo, and technically the term sensei should only be used from sixth dan onwards. But in our situation in South Africa, where we don't have that much exposure, we only have one other seventh dan sensei here in South Africa, but he's 82. He's Buster Sepu Sensei. He's retired. He was he was a huge influence of South African kendo, but he's the only other person that we can really consider as a sensei. So my title as sensei is sort of because of the situation. But with that said, though, there is a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
It's an important one. I take it very seriously. I had a question the one time. Someone asked me, why do some of your students still call you sensei outside the dojo? And my answer was, look, it's not an ego thing. It's a responsibility thing. And the important thing is, if I'm one way in the dojo and then I'm another way outside the dojo, there's this difference, and I can't be one or the other person. I need to have this, and I'd like to think, this character, correct, this consistency. I need to be as upstanding as I like to think I am in the dojo as I am outside the dojo, and therefore I take my title and role very seriously in that sense.
Wonderful. I agree. Wherever I see my sensei, I bow and I because he's my sensei inside the dojo and anywhere else.
Great. Okay, that's good. That's good. Obviously, there's different senseis with different opinions on that. And being in Europe was another thing as well. I had senseis that were really highly ranked seventh dan Kyoshi senseis. They were like, no, but just call me George or Jean-Pierre outside the dojo, and they're very casual about it. That's absolutely their prerogative. And it doesn't mean that they don't take their role any more seriously than I don't, but absolutely respect that.
It's what they prefer. No, that's 100%. I agree. If it works for them, then we honor that as well. We respect that. I was thinking now of the kendo, where you use the bamboo sword and you have the armor. So that is in the dojo. And then I thought of is it the jodo, where you have the kata with the sheathing of the sword?
That's Iaido.
Iaido.
So
tell me the katas. Is it not dangerous for the person to do that, because I watched the kata the other day on YouTube, and that blade, I mean, it was going all over the place. So how dangerous is it?
Well, can't see it now, but I cut my finger on Thursday.
Ouch.
So you can't really see it, or the camera won't focus on
see it on the camera. Yeah.
But look, when you do Iaido, it's probably the most. I wouldn't even say it's the most dangerous, but it's the weapon that you're handling is a sharpened sword.
Wow.
And if you know anything about the katana, if it's a real katana, it is sharp. You know, you could drop a sheet of paper. I mean, I did a little experiment. I held an A4 sheet of paper like this, and I just drew a line with my katana, and it sliced it literally in half. You know, and that was the thing that I was using, and I cut my finger because I wasn't paying attention. And you know, it always reminds me of what my one sensei from the US says, and she says, frankly, you know, the sword is created for one purpose: to cut.
Yeah.
You know, it's not there to be spun around and flicked up in the air. And if you're using a real katana, I wouldn't do these flicks and twirls and everything with it. You know, it's there to cut.
Yes.
It'll either cut your enemy or it's going to cut you. And this is why the whole purpose of Iaido is to learn how to sheath the sword and draw the sword out carefully. Because once it's out, it's easy. You know, where the pointy bit is, it's going to cut that. But once it's in its sheath, or you're trying to take it out, it's going to cut me. And it's cut me already. Okay. And again, you know, that's a change in doing a martial art with a serious Budo mindset versus doing, and you know, no offense to some of these extreme martial arts. You know, they do martial arts with the flashiness of it. You know, you and spinning around. And look, don't get me wrong, I love that. I love it because I do lightsaber dueling as well, with proper lightsabers that glow in.
Wow. Awesome.
You know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. You know, I don't know if you know, people that love swords and love stuff. This is the absolute dream. But those are lightsabers, and they're made to spin around and make funny noises and great noises. And while it's making noises, I'm making noises as well. You know, shoo, 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 and you're spinning the thing. But those are purely for, you know, for entertainment. Whereas using a katana, a real katana, it's remember where it's come from. That's what the blade is telling you when you draw it. It's remember where I came from a battlefield. You know, I was meant to manage. That changes the mindset from entertainment to something serious. You know, and in Iaido, we learn something very important. You know, something and Kendo. You know, the sword can both be a life-taking and life-giving.
Yes.
Right? It's a tool that can both give life and take life. So, and you know, don't, you know, take that statement very seriously.
So I'm thinking two things. I'm thinking we should have a lightsaber battle at one point. I would like to see who wins. I'm sure it will be you.
Sounds good. Those lightsabers still do hurt this. I'll get you padded up, and I'll pad up myself.
Okay, good. And the other thing I was thinking is how amazed I was when I saw that lady doing the kata with a katana, and I was thinking to myself, that is so dangerous. Imagine the focus, because to do a kata in itself, your feet have to be in the right place. You know, your arms, and there's a sequence of the moves that you do. How focused must she be to, in all of that, make sure that she doesn't cut herself? That was just amazing to me.
Absolutely. You know, I think in this European gash, or sort of Musashuga that I went on, one sensei mentioned is when you're wielding a weapon, there are two things you need to keep in mind. One, your body needs to be balanced to do the moves. And two, you got to understand, if you're using a live blade, the weapon needs to also be in balance. So there's two balancing acts that you need to juggle while you're doing the kata. You know, the sword has to be used in the right way for it to do its thing. You can't use it like a battle axe to try to hack through things. It has to do its own thing. But at the same time, your own body needs to be in perfect balance and harmony. So yeah, it is difficult. Yeah. I'm still very much a beginner in Iaido, and I'm just touching on the surface of the intricacies of it. You know, even though we don't do partner work because of how dangerous it is. And it is difficult. It is difficult, but that's part of the journey.
It's part of the journey. And I'm thinking when you said you're just a beginner, I think we still, doesn't matter how many years we practice it. In the end, we're all still just beginners. We will never stop learning.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you, katas. Which kata is your favorite and why?
Oh gosh. Okay. So look, I think unlike a lot of, I suppose karate, I'm not sure about your style, but some styles have like dozens and dozens and almost hundreds of kata.
Yeah.
Kendo only has 10 kata. That's it. In kendo, the whole kata, there are 10. So whether you're an 8th kyu or an 8th dan, you only ever do 10 kata in kendo, right?
Yeah.
But it's the depth of the kata that you go through, and at each level, and only now am I starting to touch on just how deep the kata and what the philosophies and the representation. And I think for you guys, you would look at something directly of the kata's application, bunkai.
Yes,
right?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
In kendo, it goes beyond bunkai. It's not just the technical application; it's also the philosophies behind it. Something I learned recently, for instance, on this kashko that I went to. Our first 3 kata represents the entire philosophy of Buddha. The first kata is all about killing. Someone comes in, they attack, you attack back, you kill them. The second kata is about maiming the person. They attack you, you chop their arm off. They can't attack you anymore, but they're still alive.
Yeah.
Whereas the third kata is all about control. They attack, you're able to control them, and using zanshin and teme can hold them back. But that illustrates the entire philosophy of Buddha, where you move from a violent situation to a non-violent and peaceful outcome. And that's, I'm just touching on the surface of that. I'm reiterating, philosophies that have been done by senseis before, but I'm only getting to understand that, now. So even though it's 10 kata only, we study them in depth and get to know them in greater detail later on. Iaido, for me as a beginner, I need to learn 12 sets of kata in Iaido, which we call Zenkin-ren or Sete kata. Thereafter, we move over to the traditional forms or more koryo. There's so many different sword styles in Japan. Depending on which koryo, which old style you want to follow, there will be another 24, 30, 40, 50 katas. So I can't even tell you which one would be my favorite. And Jodo as well. Yeah, as a beginner, I'm doing again the Sete or the Zenkin-ren Jodo katas first, which is 12 of them. And they're all fascinating on its own. But thereafter, you go into the koryo, the old school, old style, and thereafter, there are a lot more katas in there. So in terms of favorite kata, I can't really tell you. I've been
all of them.
Yeah, and our katas are short. Yeah? I mean, you mentioned a minute or two for your kata. My kata, for instance, my first kendo kata will take 10 to 15 seconds flat. That's it. Okay, it's 2 movements. Guy walks in, he cuts, you cut him back. That's it. All right, and like I said, that's it. Okay, when you're dealing with a sword, there's no need for any nothing elaborate. Cuts you, chop his head off. He's dead. It's simple. So the bunkai, I know the bunkai is so simple. It's like, what's the bunkai? The bunkai is simple. He cut you, you cut his head off. That's so simple as that.
That's amazing.
I think there's the. And I don't take anything away from some of the more some of the styles that have long, elaborate katas. They're beautiful to watch. And the bunkai in there, most people see it only at surface level. I studied pressure point fighting, and some of the hidden messages of pressure point fighting are in the bunkai. If you wouldn't study it, especially the style that you do, it comes from Okinawa. There's a lot of Okinawan old school stuff that's in there that's you might not know about it, but there's pressure points, combination of pressure points that can maim, kill, delay, death touch, all those things. It's fascinating stuff to watch. But when it comes to using swords, you know what? It's simple. You cut, I cut back. If something bleeds, guess what? I win.
You win and you walk away.
So maybe that's why, if I may mention, though, Jodo has, because you use a jo, a stick, a wooden stick, right?
Yeah.
The katas are a little bit more elaborate, and the reason is that a jo can maim, it can subdue, it can control somebody, and yes, and absolutely, if you wanted to, it could kill as well. But it has so many other applications than just maiming or killing, and that's what makes maybe the jodo katas for me at the moment are the most interesting ones that I have. Something as simple as kata one that we have in judo, skis where you stand in a guarding position, he attacks you, you hit his arm, subdue him, he pulls back, he goes into a fighting stance, you hit his other arm, and you hold him and you control him. It has so much depth and meaning just in that kata. So look, I would have to say judo katas for me at the moment are the most interesting.
Fantastic. It sounds wonderful. I have to see that. The pressure points, yes, we learn about the pressure points, absolutely.
Good.
And they are amazing. And you learn so much when you learn the bunkai in the kata. What is that move really for? How will it really look if it was not just a kata, but a real fight? So, it's amazing. And we use the sai, the bow, and then the nunchucks. So, but we don't use the sai that are sharpened as it would be in real life, because I think it would be very dangerous to do so. But that's my favorite weapon, is to use the sai. I love the sai.
Nice,
and the bow, of course, is the wooden stick, but it's much longer than the jo. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it's nice. Absolutely. I think using weapons for me has always been really nice. I like using weapons, and I like using my body as well. But I suppose as I'm getting older, the body gets sore and it's not as conditioned as it should be. So using a weapon is always much more. I suppose I like using weapons just as much more.
Me too. He cuts you cut him. Or what did you say? He cuts you, you chop his head off.
Exactly. Bunkai there is done.
I'm glad I'm only having a lightsaber fight with you, not the fight with the katana.
No, for sure. The lightsabers are, but they're made of some really durable sort of plastic material, so they do hurt as well. So we still go relatively light with each other, or if you do want to go harder, we put padding on. If you want to go hard, but it's mainly there for the lights and sound. I think if you're a Star Wars fan, we normally, when we have it once a year, we do on the 4th of May, we have Star Wars Day. I whip out the lightsabers, and we have a lot of fun, and we take photos, we make videos, and we just behave like sort of crazy kids with lightsabers running around, and we reenact Star Wars. It's really good fun. So it's all the fun.
I think that's wonderful. I think that's wonderful. It's family time together. Absolutely. Tell me, Warren, what are the principles, if you had to choose the main principles in martial arts, because you've mentioned that it's more than just a hobby, it's more than just, going for the exercise or maybe toning your body or conditioning your body. It becomes a lifestyle.
Right.
What do you perceive the principles to be of martial arts?
Well, I think the principles would be, you need to want to be a better person. You want to be able to develop yourself. I think, martial arts can be anything and a lot of things for a lot of people, So I would always ask, why would you want to do martial arts? And some people will say they want to do it for fitness. Self-defense is always a big thing. But if you only did martial arts for self-defense, I think you'd be a little bit paranoid. If you really wanted to learn self-defense, go get a gun. Get a gun license and go on a combat course. It's quicker, it's easier, it doesn't hurt as much. You don't have to go through the pain and the blood, sweat, and tears, as I'm sure you know, right? Yeah. If you are serious about self-defense, go put yourself on a gun course and do it the right way. So it can't only be for self-defense. So for me, I think the principles would be about self-development. If you want to do martial arts, you want to learn about yourself. You want to not only learn, you want to explore yourself. You want to see what your body, your mind, your spirit is capable. When I say spirit, I use it in a very loosely, right? Your body and mind, what is it capable of doing? Martial arts can really push you to that limit. And when I say martial arts, I also mean martial arts and the people that instruct it. There are and I'll be very blatant about it, there are martial arts instructors of different degrees of levels of skill and understanding. You'll have top-notch guys that are really good, and you'll get some guys that are, they're physically talented. That's it. And
Yes,
I'm not taking anything away from them, but that's as far as their martial arts goes. They can do a 360 kick. They can lift their leg and they can kick up in the air like that. But they've lost they don't have that deeper understanding, both mentally and spiritually. So when it comes to martial arts, you need to understand what you're doing it for. You're doing it purely for a physical aspect. Yes, that guy that can do a split kick in the air, 360-degree turns, break through concrete with 2 fingers. That's the guy you want to be able to follow. But ultimately, you need to know what do you want to learn. And for me, martial arts is about understanding myself from a body, mind, and spirit perspective. And be the best.
I agree.
The best person that I can be.
I agree completely. I agree. And in a sense, I've seen that martial arts have honed my my leadership skills. It has really, it has brought out things in me that I wasn't aware of, that I had those skills and those, it develops you on every level. And it's something that when you start to develop in that manner, you don't want to stop. So in your opinion, Warren, how did it hone your leadership skills? How did it make you into the leader that you are today? What were significant moments that you can think of how it changed you?
Yeah, I think leadership skills, and I think is one of them. I think it gives a wide variety. And if leadership skills is something you want to hone through your martial arts, absolutely nothing wrong with it. But you could also hone, your skills as a IT technician. The discipline that you have, being able to focus for hours at end and be a great technician. That's also okay. And I'm not saying that a technician can't be a leader, but I think the martial arts can be used in a variety of ways. For me personally, I think, I think leadership skills, as much as I'd like to think I am a leader, I'm still a leader in learning. And it gave me confidence, essentially. Stick to my convictions, believe in the things that I think is right and just. And that's, I learned through, there's one way in punching someone that's not going to hurt you, right? Use that same kind of principles that there's a couple of ways that you can do something which is not going to hurt you or anyone else. Or you want to hurt someone. So there's a lot of ways you can interpret your martial arts skills into leadership. For me, it's about, we want to accomplish something. And I say we, people at my dojo, we want to be, good at what we do, focus our training. We want to have fun and have a lot of, do it as a family. And those were the sort of the leadership skills that I used to apply it. Let's focus on the training, have a lot of fun, and be family orientated. So it did in a roundabout way enhance my leadership skills.
Yeah, and it speaks to all arenas of life, as you mentioned. It can excel you into the future, propel you into higher heights in whatever place you are in your life. It will have a positive effect. I read somewhere that your 3 passions are martial arts, self-defense, and personal development, and it's come through that it's a lifestyle for you. You've been versed, or you are versed in many different types of martial arts. And personal development is very important for you. What type of personal development are you focusing at the moment on?
Okay, that's an interesting question. I think I ask myself the same question a lot of times, I think the biggest one for me, and I've got a nice book there, it's called Peak Performance, that was given to me by Parker Sensei. It's about understanding how the human body and through mental training, we can enhance our training. So that for me is, as I'm getting older, my physical prowess is not as great as it used to be, not saying it was great. So now I need to rely on something else, which is my mental fortitude and being able to understand the mind, your mindset. Positive thinking is one of it.
Very good.
So that is part of, and it's been an ongoing journey for a number of years. I think for where I am at the moment, it took me a lot of personal and self-development of understanding not only myself, but and especially my mind. Because your mind can be both a good and a bad thing, right?
Yes.
And that's one of the things I've always struggled with, negative thoughts. So I think that's an ongoing thing, understanding how my mind and I can enhance my performance through mental discipline as such, or mental training. So that's my focus.
Very good. I agree. Mindset is everything.
Absolutely.
Keeping that positive mindset going is not always easy. So I gather that you believe that lifelong learning, leadership, mindset training, focus is very important. So no, definitely, I have the same experience with regards to that. I wanted to ask you, Warren, do you welcome other martial artists? And I'm sure you do into your dojo, into your Mashi dojo, or do you have to be a member? Because I, for instance, would love to visit your dojo and learn more about your style, and martial arts and the weapons. So how is the culture with you at the moment there at your dojo? How does it work when you have newcomers or people from other martial art backgrounds?
So, great question. I think absolutely, we welcome, firstly, we welcome anyone, regardless of color, creed, religion, sexual orientation. You're welcome to come and train with us. And we always welcome people to come and try it out. My only requirement, basically, when you come learn.
Yes.
I remember one time a guy coming in, I think he had a Aikido background or something, and he was trying to instruct me in how to instruct using Aikido principles. I'm like, when I come to your dojo, I will come and learn as if I'm a beginner. That's all I ask is come to our dojo, come learn as if you want to learn kendo, or judo, and leave the preconceived ideas outside the door. And as much as you may be a sensei in your dojo, try to learn from our dojo. And if you can come there with an open mind, please do come. I'll be more than welcome you. And when I go to other people's dojo, I go with the same kind of attitude. Like, I may be a kendo instructor, and I think I know a little bit of kendo, but please show me what you have. We actually started an initiative pre-COVID called the Budo Experience. And the idea was to invite other instructors from other styles to come and share their knowledge with us. So, for instance, for you, it's Shorin Ryu, right?
Yes.
As an instructor, come show us what makes your style unique. I'm fascinated by your style because your Chinese characters also say Shaolin, which means it has a Chinese background or Chinese lineage. I'm very fascinated by that. I'm Chinese, right? We'll invite, we'll go to other dojos. We went to a Kudo dojo the one time to show us how to do Japanese archery. And that was fascinating. We don't go there and say, listen, I'm a kendo person. Let me show you how to shoot a bow with a bamboo sword. Like, no, you forget all about that.
That was cool.
Yeah, exactly. And we absolutely welcome them. Please come train with us. We'll show you what we can do. And that's what we call the Budo Exchange. We all have this common love and passion for martial arts. But I'm not going to try and impose my ideas and my principles on you. I want you to come and show us, and vice versa, we'll show you. So if you come to our dojo and you want to learn, you're more than welcome. And we'll show you how the principles of the way that we use our sword, and then we'll reciprocate and come to you, and you can show us how you do it. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yes, we are also taught that when you are in any sensei's dojo, you respect their dojo. It's their home.
Absolutely.
It's where they teach their students. So we have our sensei, who is a Kyoshi 7th Dan, but we also sometimes have a senpai if someone is doing the warm-ups or showing a kata. And what's wonderful for me in that is that it can even be someone that's younger than you. And that senpai is then in charge of that session. And when you come in, you show them respect by asking them if you may join their class. So I find these things very refreshing in martial arts because it really shows that respect. I love that. Yeah. So we do kata, kumite, we do weapons, wooden and bladed, and then we do jiu-jitsu also and kickboxing, and also full contact, which I love. That's my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would love to pop in with you at your dojo and come and visit you.
Yeah, definitely. We'll chat offline and you let me know when you're available. And by all means, come through when you're available and choose a style that you would like to try, or try all three. Each one, like I said, has a different focus. Kendo is about competing, and when I say competing, it's both competing with your opponent out there that's trying to hit you back, as well as competing against yourself. Your inner inhibitions, your fear, your hesitations, your anxiety. So there's a lot of competition involved in Kendo, whereas Iaido is all about self-discovery and contemplation and thinking about, number one, not getting cut by your own sword. Number two, there's a lot of contemplation. And number three, Jodo, for me, it's most fascinating because you need to learn how to cooperate with your partner, because both of you are using weapons. One uses a wooden sword, one uses a stick. And I'm sure while your weapons training, you could break bones and concuss a person, get them wrong. So those are definitely weapons on their own right. So you need to cooperate with your partner. So, yep.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you, Warren. My next question to you is, what is next for you?
Look, I think, the journey and the training is never ending. I think for me, my goal at the moment is I'm focusing on my 6th Dan, which I in Kendo, which I go for in about 20 months plus 20. 20. Am I right? 20 months. Yeah, about 20 months, a year and a half. So my focus and my energy is all about preparing myself for that. Not just only skill wise, but from a fitness level. I need to eat right and get fit, do some weight. My cheeks are get a little bit thinner.
No more big ice creams.
Yeah, that's true. No more big ice creams.
I'm just kidding.
No, but you're absolutely right. But not only that, getting my mindset in the right space. I need to do a lot of theory work and reading and understanding. But the most important thing for this level where I'm going for now, because it's considered a higher level of Kendo, the last 3 levels of Kendo are the higher levels. So I need to really get my mind and my attitude and my technical skills refined. So my focus is that for now, and that's for Kendo. For the other 2 arts, I've just got to, as a beginner, just keep learning, absorbing, and repeat.
Repeat. Absolutely, I agree with you, and I know you're going to do amazing when you go for your next adventure.
I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Warren. My final question to you is, do you have any words of wisdom for the audience? We would love to hear what your final comments would like to be to them.
Maybe I can end off with, we have a dojo. In our dojo, we have a shomen, which is written in kanji, and it says Koken Chiai. And it basically says, through the mutual love of the sword, we aim to better humanity. And this is, when we walk in, we all bow to the shomen and we pay respect and we remember why we're doing what we're doing. Kendo is not something where you can use for self-defense. So why are we doing it? Personal development, right? And the idea is, if we can be all just ourselves, be better people in society, we can make society a better place. And I think that's a lesson that anyone, hopefully, if everyone will value. Just be good people. As long as you're a better person yourself, society will become a better place. And that is something I'd like to leave the audience with.
Wonderful words of wisdom. We appreciate that you took the time to spend with us, teach us. Thank you so much for imparting that knowledge and wisdom into our lives. We really appreciated having you.
And no, thank you again, Juanita, for the opportunity. I really appreciate. Interviews like this really make me think and reiterate and help me formulate my thoughts. A lot of times it's just a jumbled mess in there, but chatting to you helps me solidify it, and keeps me motivated on my path. And hopefully, if a few other people join us, it's great.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. And for our listeners this evening, this morning, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be putting Warren's contact details at the end of the session. Reach out to him, network with him, follow him on social media, and we're all holding thumbs for his next adventure to be a huge success. Thank you very much, Warren.
Thank you very much, Anita. All the best. Take care.
You too.